I don't know who needs to hear this, but unless they're Jesus, don't let them tell you who you are. When I first came to Christ, I was coming out of the worst season ever possible to have ever happened to me. I was coming out of a lifestyle where I was living in complete darkness. I was living in complete sin. For me to look back at the life that I once lived and to look at the life that I have now, my turnaround was crazy. People thought that I was using Jesus as an excuse or as a cover-up, but the fact is that Jesus radically transformed my life. And it really did happen so quickly. Even I didn't understand it, but I was in the worst possible spot of my life. I was doing OnlyFans. I was smoking weed every single day. I was selfish. I was arrogant. I was prideful. I was persecuting Christians with my words. I was looking down on people. I was mocking God. I was mocking Jesus. I was a hateful person. I was bitter. I was arguing with people in parking lots. Like literally, I argued with a little old woman in a parking lot. It's insane, the difference that Jesus has made in my life. To begin, a little bit of my testimony. I was living that lifestyle, and I thought that I was living in secrecy, that no one would ever find out about what I was doing. Literally nobody in my personal life knew what I was doing. I spoke a word against God, and it was like, your mother's prayers have been covering you. Your mother-in-law's prayers have been covering you. Your husband's prayers have been covering you. You know, you've been covered in prayer, but you have mocked me for the last time. So where I once gave you grace and I once showed you mercy, I am going to remove my hand off of your life. And I got to experience hell on earth. My life was so void of meaning. I wrestled with suicidal thoughts, depression, anxiety, trauma, like literally chronic PTSD, where I was reliving traumatic things that happened in my life over and over and over and over again, 24/7. I ended up coming face to face with the demons, literal demons, that had been playing a role in my life, and the reason why I was struggling so bad. The reason why I couldn't get out of these cycles, that no matter how much I would keep trying to get out of OF, I would keep trying to quit smoking. I was going to therapy, I was taking medication, and it just kept getting worse. I felt God remove his hand off of my life, and I choked on the very words that I was speaking against him. This literally happened in probably a day. 1 minute I was speaking against him, and then the next, my life was literally crumbling. When I say everybody found out, everybody found out. Everybody in the whole entire town. I could not go anywhere without people looking at me. And not only did they find out, those rumors catapulted and spiraled into something that it wasn't. I could not go anywhere without people looking at me and whispering. I was so suicidal, and I was so remorseful, and I was so regretful and ashamed. I deleted every single thing. I was ashamed of the person I had become because I used to love Jesus. And I took a step back and I realized how every single thing that had been happening for the past probably 4 or 5 years that I was doing that, I got further and further and further away from God, until a point I hated him, until I felt so removed from him that I didn't have any respect for him. And it is just so crazy that, you know, you think, oh, it's just a little bit. That little bit adds up. And Satan thought that he could keep me from God. So the minute that I was choking on my own words, and I was wanting to take back everything that I had done and everything that I had said, the spiritual warfare got worse. And there was one night I was laying in bed and I felt just so utterly broken. because I was so alone. I had nobody I could turn to. I was in a town where I knew nobody, but everybody knew me. And it was so hard because I didn't have anyone that I could rely on. I didn't have anyone that I could turn to. I was fighting with my whole entire family at that time. I was ashamed, so I really couldn't talk to anybody. I was seeing a therapist, but then there was a conflict of interest. She had to cancel me as a client. I was literally so alone, and I literally was feeling so desperate. I was laying in a fetal position on my bed, and I felt so broken and so empty and just so desperate. I'd never been that low in my life. My soul was aching and weeping, and I just so desperately wanted to die. But then I cried out to God because I realized that what I was saying before, this was a result of my actions. And with everything in me, I cried out to him and I said, Lord, if you can just prove to me that you're real, just please fix me, help me, because I'm just so desperate right now. And at that moment, I felt his hands on me. I felt forgiveness, I felt love, I felt peace, and it was nothing that I'd ever experienced before. Because before I went to church and I knew of God, but I didn't know him. I had to experience everything that I experienced so I can have the relationship that I have with him today. I'm not a perfect person with a perfect past who has no clue what it's like to be on the other side, what it's like to struggle with addiction, what it's like to come from a broken past, because the truth is, for 26 years of my life, all I knew was broken. When I came to Jesus, it was such a radical flip that people saw me going to church, and they saw me with a cross around my neck, and they saw me carrying a Bible, and they saw me reading my Bible. No one knew what I had experienced, so they were wanting to doubt who I was. They were wanting to whisper about me and say, she thinks she's a Christian. Oh honey, if you only knew what he saved me from. If you only knew the power of our God. I had so many Christians looking down at me and judging me and taking pictures of me and gossiping about me when they should have been praying about me. And that is the sad reality of our church. I'm saying the body of Christ. We want to look at other sinners, and you're no different than the Pharisees. We are no different than the Pharisees who wanted to look righteous and who wanted to go to church on Sundays, but what are you doing for the lost and the broken? Judging them? Do not let anybody tell you who you are, because God sees your efforts. They might know your past, they don't know your future. They don't know what God has in store for you. You don't know what God has in store for you. If I could go back and tell myself what I know now, we had no idea what was waiting for her. I had no idea. But God did. Even when I was at my worst, even when I was mocking him, he knew that there was a future for me who didn't deserve it. But I'm here to tell you, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. It doesn't even matter what you think, because you might think that you're not deserving. But someone needs to hear this, because some of you might be experiencing the same things that I was, and you might be feeling persecuted and so alone. But God is building you. He is not breaking you. There is a reason for everything, and God will work all things together for the good of those who love him. And this is just your beginning. So don't be discouraged. Don't let people define who you are. Don't let them try to break your spirit, because it doesn't matter what your past is. It doesn't matter if you just left that life behind yesterday or today to follow him, because he knows your future.